Hello. So I'd had a conversation with my sister about this next scene, and had a number of thoughts that I wanted to share, or stuff that we had discussed and agreed upon. Um, so we kind of concluded that Jory was the only one who actually has a normal human reaction to this situation. So, for instance, upcoming, he bulks at the suggestion of drinking blood, and I think that's a normal reaction. And particularly when it's blood which is infected with a highly virulent disease. Davith, however, seems to think it's justified, and as such may end up being a better recruit than I had thought, or than Jory is. And Davith also says that part of the reason for their secrecy may be because they wouldn't be able to get recruits otherwise. And, well, for one thing, these aren't recruits. Duncan said, you're not recruits. You don't have a choice in this matter. But as a counterpoint, consider the medieval knightly orders. For instance, you have the Knights Hospitaller, who were tasked with caring and treating pilgrims, the Knights Templar, who were guarding pilgrims, and the Teutonic Knights, who were protecting Catholics in Eastern Europe. They were going against, I'm going to pause now, opponents who might conquer and try to convert you. And yes, conversion was seen as a bigger threat at the time than we would see it now, and people might die in that, at both of them. But they were still, these were groups that were active for hundreds of years. Now consider the fact that the Grey Wardens are facing off against an opponent which will literally kill everyone and poison the land such that it's uninhabitable for generations. You could get recruits to oppose that. And possibly you might just get zealots and fanatics to join, but against an existential threat like that, that's kind of what you need. You need those who will do whatever's necessary to win, not random people who may, like Jory here, have other concerns. And also another point that my sister made is that none of Duncan's recruits are in good places emotionally. Like, for instance, Davith. Davith was saved from the gallows, might feel obligated to Duncan. Jory, as this puts, he just got married. His wife is heavy with child. Also, he just won a tournament. He's on top of the world, and suddenly has this man from an illustrious order he's heard glorious stories of coming and saying, hey, I'd like you to join us. He might feel, hey, this is the next step. How high can I go? And then consider the main character here, Duran. And he went from being presumptively the next king of Orzammar to killing his brother and being exiled to a desolate realm to die. Not exactly in the best places emotionally. And the other character backgrounds, or main character backgrounds, aren't any better here for this. It really seems like his recruiting techniques are somewhat predatory. So also both agreed that it seems highly unlikely that over 1,000 years they could not come up with a better way than this. This is to make new Grey Wardens. And even assuming that they can't, this is the only way, I think this, as much as we've seen, has proved that you don't need to be a Grey Warden to fight Darkspawn effectively. You can just kill them as a normal person. Now, even if like the whole thing about being able to detect Darkspawn is but can't be made up for by, let's say, effective scouting and keeping watch, that you don't necessarily need to have everyone in a unit be a Grey Warden to have them be able to tell when they're going to be Darkspawn coming. You could have a single one and they can just be like, oh, hey, there's Darkspawn coming, everyone be on your guard. And that could be as effective. And you might think that, oh, well, if a blight comes up, you're going to need a lot more Grey Wardens to fight it. The thing is, a blight is also going to get you a lot more recruits. I mean, partially you're going to have all the people who contract the blight and might think, okay, I can die slowly and painfully and potentially become a danger to everyone around me, or I can risk death in joining this group and become slightly more effective at fighting them. You are going to have people who have lost a great deal to the blight, possibly everything. Their families could be dead, their lands could be poisoned and uninhabitable. They might want to get some revenge and be willing to risk death to join them. There might also just be people who are like, I am willing to risk my life to end this. So I don't feel they have issues with recruiting. Now you notice, Duncan says, I'm sorry, Davith, but I don't think Davith is quite dead yet, unless like Duncan has seen this before and knows that this is the signs that the person is not going to make it. Now here, Duncan makes very little attempt to talk Jory down, just pulls out the dagger and shanks him. And not much reaction from either of us. I drink. Feel this reaction? Well, what we see of Duran's reaction seems rather similar to Davith's. And here, this is one thing which I find kind of questionable. It's like, makes me wonder, 2 more deaths. In his, only 1 had died. But the question is, okay, how did that one die? Was it from the poison, or was it from Duncan shanking the recruit? And notice Alistair just kind of accepts this, doesn't really see it as being anything unusual, despite the fact that his commander and mentor just killed someone right in front of him. I mean, it's quite understandable that Troy's reaction is quite understandable. He has things to live for. He just saw someone die right in front of him. I think understandable that he'd be like, no, I don't want this. And this appears to be like the only really reaction you have to a person who has like any sort of concern of like, what happens? Like, I still can't believe you killed Sir Jory. That's it. And there's the discussion of like adventuring in groups and adventurers as being, and I don't mean this as like slight against people who actually have some sort of mental condition, but sociopathic, not caring about other humans' lives. Let's see if I missed anything. But yeah, and or that we just move on. And again, as I said, I feel like the Grey Wardens could still get recruits. Even if everyone knew what joining involved. And then you wouldn't have people like Jory, who could probably still be valuable on the front lines. I mean, you'd still possibly have people like Davith if you couldn't develop a better way of doing this. But you wouldn't have lost a valuable warrior like Jory. Anyway, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to comment below with your thoughts on the matter. Have a good night.